Hey you guys, how's it going? Welcome back to this channel. If you have not subscribed, I invite you to go ahead and subscribe so that you guys can be notified when I go live or if I upload a new video. And if you could, please hit that like button. So in this video, I want to go over a timeline leading to the return of Christ. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a timeline of events leading up to the return of Christ. Now, I get a lot of my information from a pastor I've been following for years, Dave Robbins, and I've learned so much through him and through his father-in-law, who recently had just passed away. But I want to kind of just go over this timeline with you guys. On this timeline concerning the return of Christ, there are about 1,000 prophecies, but we're going to discuss the prophecies that are left, that still need to take place. So I encourage you to take notes and follow along in your Bibles. Out of these 1,000 prophecies, there are only just a few prophecies left to go. And out of those 1,000 prophecies, only about 53 of those concern the Antichrist. Now keep in mind that some pastors believe that the fifth trumpet has already sounded, and the sixth trumpet is the next one to come. I too also believe this. Now, by walking through this timeline, we will be able to know what to look for. Now, we know that forever they have been pushing this world government. We've heard previous presidents, including the President Biden, say we need a one world order. Well, this one world government is forming now. The United Nations is that world government. It will become the new Holy Roman Empire, a league of European nations in which the Antichrist will arise out of. In Daniel chapter 7, Daniel saw 4 beasts: a lion with eagle wings, a bear, a 4-headed leopard, and a 10-horned beast. Daniel 7:23 says that these beasts represents nations and the kings or rulers of those nations. It also says that these would be in power at the time of Christ's second return. The nations that they represent are, and this is a really good time if you guys want to take notes. So the nations that these represent are, the first one is the lion, which is Great Britain. Number 2, the eagle wings, which is United States of America. Number 3, the bear, which is Russia. And number 4, the 4-headed leopard, is Germany. Number 5 is the wings on a fowl, is France. And 6, the 10-horned beast, is the Holy Roman Empire, which is basically the modern day European Union. Now we know the book of Daniel and Revelations was written 650 years apart. These men didn't know each other, but the two books are very similar. God is the author of the Bible, but he chose 2 separate writers to write these 2 books of the Bible. Now John, who was exiled to the Isle of Patmos, began seeing things that God was showing him concerning the end time. And here's what John said. So if you want, let me see here. If you want to follow along, I am at Revelations 13, 1 through 3. And John says, then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now keep in mind that Daniel saw 4 beasts. John is saying he saw 1 beast. So the 10 horns that John is trying to describe represents the European Union. The European Union, Germany, the leopard. The feet of the bear is Russia. You know, we know these names by who they are. The mouth of the lion is Great Britain. And, you know, this will also be involved in also the dragon is the mastermind behind this world government. And the dragon is no other than Satan himself. Satan has been working behind the scenes using leaders, these laws, these artists, musicians, actors, and stars to prepare so that everything is already established when he comes. These influential individuals keep you dumbed down as they work behind the curtain. Satan is not going to have time to establish a one world government when he's cast down to earth. No, everything will already be in place for him. It says also that, let me see. If we go on to verse 2, it says, now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. And so it says one of its heads were wounded and then healed. So we believe that happened when the Berlin Wall came down. That, you know, that it took a big, you know, it was wounded, then it was healed. So Revelations 1 and 2 is the world government forming, and that, as I have stated, is happening now. The leader of this world government will be the Antichrist. In Revelations 13, 11 through 12 is basically forming a one world religion. So let's go ahead and check that out. Let's see. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So, as we know, there's also a one world religion that will take place. This will be a false religion. This man is going to look like the Lamb, Jesus Christ, His outward appearance will be as like a holy man, a religious looking figure, but he will speak like the dragon. And the dragon is Satan. They will establish a one world religion because, and by getting everyone to follow one religion, that one religion will be having you to follow after the first beast to worship the Antichrist. Next, we have the mark of the beast. Now, we can't have a mark of the beast until we have a beast. So, no, when you took the COVID or the shot, that was not the mark of the beast. People who are getting chips put in their hands, that is not the mark of the beast. When we know that the Antichrist is here and he has been revealed, it will be at that time that if you choose to take a mark, you're going to know that you're giving allegiance over to this over to Satan. You're going to know it. You can't be tricked into it. It's something that you're freely going to choose to do. So no one has taken this mark as of yet. Another prophecy on this timeline is the sixth trumpet. This is one of the next things that has to happen, which is World War III. So we're going to check out Revelations 9:13 through 16. Then the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel who has the trumpet, release the four angels who are bound at the river of Euphrates. So the four angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million, which is 200 million. I heard the number of them. So this war will begin at the great river Euphrates. The great Euphrates is housed in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. And it will only originate from there. It's going to originate from there, but it's not going to be contained there. This war is going to spread out, and it's going to kill a third of all humans, if you can imagine that. This army will have 200 million men. They're always talking about depopulation. So war is the fastest way to wipe out 2.6 billion people. Because that's how many people, if that's a third of all mankind, that's right around 2.6 billion people. So who can produce a 200 million man army? There are about only 4 entities that can produce an army that large. China, India, and Islam. There's 3. China, India, and Islam. So it's my opinion that it will be China who will somehow join in with Iran and maybe Russia and maybe even Turkey, because Russia and China are pretty close, and Russia is close with Iran. So It's possible this axis that's forming between those nations will be what starts World War III. Only God knows, but, you know, only God knows his own master plan. We can only take a guess based on what we see on the news. So, this sixth trumpet war is one thing that is coming next. And another thing that we're watching for is this peace treaty between Palestine and Israel. This peace deal. So if you'll go with me to Daniel 9:27, it says, "Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week." 1 week is 7 years. And so, who is he? Who is he that Daniel is describing here? He happens to be the Antichrist. So he, the Antichrist, shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, 7 years. But in the middle of the week, which is 3.5 years, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall be one who makes desolate. Okay, so 3 things will happen. The final 7 years to Armageddon will begin at, the moment this peace treaty, the 7-year peace treaty between the Palestinian people and Israel people, once that is agreed and the Antichrist confirms it, the final 7 years to Armageddon will begin. A Palestinian state will be created in the West Bank, and the Jews in Judah will be allowed to stay as a Jewish minority under the new Palestinian government. So we will have 7 years left after this agreement is in effect. So just know that once this happens, we have 7 years. This will be a 2-state solution. Israel will give up land for peace, but they'll never give up Jerusalem. In Matthew 24, Jesus said, "When you see the abomination of desolation occur, let them which be in Judah flee." So he's talking to the people in the West Bank, which is modern day Judea. The third temple will be rebuilt in the first 3.5 years. When this happens, the Antichrist will stand in the temple and declare he is God. It's at this moment, very moment, that those which are in Judea are to run. So whatever's going to happen will happen so fast that God is telling them not to even go back into your house for anything. They're pretty much, they need to run for their lives. So let's go back to, Revelations 11, 1 through 2. It says, "When I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood saying, 'Rise and measure the temple.'" Now, the angel is speaking to John in this. The angel is telling him to measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there. But leave out the court which is outside the temple. Do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. And this is an important part too. And I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. That is another thing on the timeline which must occur on this timeline. We're not going to dig too much into the 2 witnesses. I can probably do another video on them. But for this one, I'm just trying to explain the timeline here. So the 2 witnesses will have power, and they will prophesy 1,260 days. So what this means, the temple will be under a sharing agreement. The Israelis, they're never going to give up Jerusalem. That's one thing the Israelis will never do. They will never give up Jerusalem. We know that we have 7 years from the signing of the peace agreement. During the first 3.5 years, we know the temple will be built. Animal sacrifices during this time will resume. They're going to be resumed. And the Antichrist will then order the sacrifices to be stopped. So, from the moment this peace treaty is signed, where we will be entering into the tribulation, the first 3.5 years of this tribulation, it's not going to be too awful. I mean, it's not going to be too bad. The last half is going to be the great tribulation. It's going to be horrific. Although I do kind of think that, if the World War III is, well, I don't know, we'll get into that here in a little bit. We're not going to get into that just yet. I'm moving ahead of myself here, I think. So let's move on to Daniel 11. Let's see what it's at. $11:31. Let's go to Daniel chapter 11, verse 31. And forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary, fortresses. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifices and place there the abomination of desolation. So here you see that's where the sacrifices are going to be ordered to be stopped. At around 3.5 years into the 7-year tribulation, there will be a war in heaven. Okay? Let's see. Let's go back to, I know I'm all over the place here, but let's go to Revelations 12:7-8. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. So again, the dragon is Satan. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So, today, Satan still has access to heaven. We all know Satan is the accuser. Just look at what happened with Job. Satan went to God to, as the accuser, as he is, and we've seen what happened with Job. We know that Satan is our accuser. But Satan will he's going to try to overthrow God in the spirit realm. In this battle, in this war in heaven, he's going to try to overthrow God. But after this war in heaven, Satan is thrown to the earth. Go with me to Revelations chapter 12. Let's see. It says, "Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them." They're all happy. They're happy that Satan can't have access to heaven anymore. But woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows he has a short time. So, no more access to heaven. No more accusing us humans before the Lord. But woe to us inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath. Oh, so this is why Satan is so angry. Do you understand why he's so angry? He's angry because it just dawned on him that he just got thrown into the middle of the tribulation, and he has 3.5 years left to wreak havoc onto us humans. So he knows his time is short now. So would you be a happy camper if you knew you only had 3.5 years before you're thrown into the bottomless pit and locked in it? It's no wonder he goes on a warpath when he comes. We already see Satan's influence in this earth. His angels, his fallen angels, are working overtime. Let's see, the Great Tribulation. This Great Tribulation that's coming up is Satan's wrath. It's not God's wrath. God's wrath doesn't happen until Armageddon, at the rapture, when he comes back and he's angry because there's armies going into Jerusalem, into Israel. That upsets him. So this tribulation is Satan's wrath. The first 3.5 years is tribulation, but it's those last 3.5 years that is the Great Tribulation. So let's move on let's go to 11, the Colossians 2, 3 through 4. So 2 Thessalonians 3 through 4 says, let no man or let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So it's in the middle of this 7 years, the last 3.5 years, that the Antichrist will be revealed. I believe it's going to be in the middle of the 3.5, or in the middle of the 7 years, that he will be revealed, and he will sit in the temple of God, and he will proclaim himself to be God. The sacrifices, they're going to be stopped upon the Antichrist orders. It could be soon, very soon after the Sixth Trumpet War, which is World War III, that the Antichrist will come on the scene. Because can you imagine the chaos that will take place for the survivors? Everyone on earth will have lost many family and friends. The world, the people that's left in it, they're going to be sick. They're going to be hungry. There's not going to be any food. They're going to probably be homeless. I mean, can you imagine all the rioting going on? There's not going to be any police or ambulance or hospitals or grocery stores. I mean, who's going to work in it? Who's going to... Everybody... This World War III is going to affect everybody. There will be not one person that's left after this World War III that will not have lost many, many loved ones. And so people are not going to be going to work. They're not going to be... They're not... when you sit and you think about everything that this war is going to do, it's unimaginable. The world is going to be desperate for a savior, and this man of sin will offer a false sense of security. But because of the magic and the miracles the Antichrist and the false prophet are performing, you will believe he is God. They're using false prophets today, like a nature boy, to condition your mind so that when the real Antichrist and the real false prophet comes, you're going to worship the beast. The Bible says the whole world will worship and follow after the beast. The false prophet causes them to worship the beast, which is Satan. The false prophet will support the Antichrist. Follow along with me, if you will, to Revelation 17:3. Then the second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it became... Let me see. No, that's... Okay, 17:3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which is full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So, I don't even know how to... Let's just say that this false prophet, this false religious leader will lead the one world religion. The woman is a false church. So, how do I say this without, and this isn't meant to offend anyone, but this describes the the Pope. This describes the Pope. So it's our belief that the Pope will be the false prophet. So the woman is a false church. That's what that represents. So now what will Christians be doing during this time? Well, we won't be hiding in a cave, that's for sure. Daniel 11, let's read Daniel 11:32 through 33. Daniel 11:32-33 says, "Those who do wickedly against the covenant, he shall corrupt with flatteries, but the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. And those of the people who understand shall instruct many, yet for many days they shall fall by sword and flame, by captivity and plundering." So, God doesn't want you to be hiding away in a cave somewhere. He wants you to be out. He wants you to be out speaking about God, because there's so many people that's going to be taking the mark of the beast during this time. He wants you to be out spreading the gospel, the good news. And the gospel must be preached among the whole world, and then the end will come. The end cannot come until that happens. Go with me, if you will, to Revelations 18:4. "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues.'" God wants his people to come out of this world's government and one world religion, not to partake in her sins. He don't want you to be a part of that. So if you now start to remove yourself, because this is Satan's world. We all know this. Anytime, even going outside in this day and age, you don't know what's out there. There's so much evil that's out there. Just don't be a part of that. Don't partake in this. You know what's going on out there. You have to function in society. I get that, but there's a difference in being a part of the worldly things and what's going on, and then there's a difference in keeping your mind on God, reading the scriptures. You know, your walk with the Lord is like a car, okay? And I know this is stupid, but it's the only example I can use here. Lord's like a human being. How does a human being function? How do they get energy? Through food that they eat, through water. Without those two things, you're empty, right? So it's the same thing as your relationship with God. If you don't feed it and you don't nurture it, you lose it, and then you become a part of the world. But you gotta feed it by reading the scriptures, by praying, talking to God, and just keeping your mind on God, because there's so much satanic influence out there that it's so tempting to be swept away into that. So let's see. I want to move into, let's see, Matthew. Let's see. Matthew 24. We're at Matthew 24 and go to 15, verse 15 through 18. Therefore, when you see the abominations of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judah flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. And let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. So again, at the moment we see the abomination of desolation, which is the Antichrist standing in the holy or in the temple, claiming himself to be God, the Jews in Judea must flee. Next on the timeline, go with me to Revelations 13, 7 through 8. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. So, next, we see here that, this is another, we're on a timeline here. We're going through the timeline. So next, as we can see, the Antichrist will make war with the saints. He will overcome them. The Bible is clear about that. It's a sad situation, but it says that he will overcome them. There's no place to hide. There's nothing you can do. I'll do another video too, also explaining that when this stuff is going on, how, what we can do. It's good to prep physically. It's good to have a safe place to go to, have plenty of water, have plenty of food. But that comes secondary. Your main goal is to be spiritually ready for this stuff, because in World War III alone, 1/3 is taken out. And then during this tribulation, many, many, many more saints, and we see that many people are going to be taken out by the Antichrist. So he will overcome them. He won't overcome every last one of them. And everyone whose names aren't written in the book of life will worship him. So It's so important. The two things that you want to make sure of during this time is make sure, and you want to do this before, you want to make sure that your name is written in the book of life. And then when this thing happens, you don't want to take the mark of the beast. You just don't, you know? And I believe that if you're going to be martyred, and you're going to be one of the ones that are, I don't even want to use that word, but if something happens, I believe God, and He knows that you're refusing to take the mark of the beast, and you have to go through that. He's going to be right with you. He's going to put such a calm and make you feel a sense of peace during that time. At least that's what I believe. I believe that. So next will come the mark of the beast. Revelations 13, 16 through 18. He calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here's is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. So, back to what I was saying about, this beast kingdom, because this is basically what it's going to be. It's going to be Satan's, the Antichrist kingdom during this 7 years, basically. And so this is basically, I do believe that the United States, because we're not mentioned in the end. The only time that we're mentioned is when it says that when she is carried away to the wilderness. I have to find that, but we are described as somebody that helps Israel at the end of time. So I believe that just because we're not going to be involved in the beast system, we're still going to be affected in some way. We're still, when the World War III happens, we're still going to be affected by that. But I don't believe that America is going to be a part of a lot of the beast system that's going on. We will fight against it, and we will try to resist it. It doesn't mean we're not going to be affected by the things that's going on. And that's for a whole nother video too. There are just so much to discuss about stuff like that. But it's another interesting topic that I could do another whole video on. But just make sure that your name is written in the book of life. And make sure that you don't take that mark of the beast. And in order to make sure of both of those things, you can prepare yourself now, because You don't want to wait till that time comes, because then you're not going to be spiritually strong enough to withstand this stuff. So like I said, next will come the mark of the beast. This comes towards the latter part of the last 3.5 years. Keep in mind that, in the middle of the 7 years, the Antichrist has gone back and he's broke the peace treaty, or the peace agreement. When this peace agreement is broken or has expired, Israel is still refusing to give up Jerusalem, and they won't comply to the things the Antichrist wants. The Jewish people, they start seeing this Antichrist for who he is, and they start to fight against him. So then that is what causes the armies to go into Israel. This will usher in Armageddon, when Jesus Christ will come, and this is at this point that this will be God's wrath. Armageddon is God's wrath. The tribulation is Satan's wrath. Because remember, Satan he's mad because he's thrown to the earth. He's mad, so he goes after God's people. He betrays the peace agreement. The things he does, it's going to be bad. So at this point, this is going to be God's wrath, where he spills, the 7 vials of God's wrath. This war will be localized to Israel. Like I said, much of the stuff that's going to happen, it's not going to be happening here in America. But we definitely are going to be affected. I definitely believe we are definitely going to be affected. Okay, we are going to go to Zechariah 14:2. For I will gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. The city shall be taken, the houses rifled, and the women ravaged. Half of the city shall go into captivity, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And Revelation 16:16 says, and they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew Armageddon. So I have to go pretty fast now because I'm running out of time. But this battle will begin in the plain of Megiddo. Israel will be forced to retreat down the Jordan Valley. It's during Zechariah 14:2 that the people of Israel will cry out to her Messiah. The Jews know this battle is coming. They even know that to this day. They know what the prophecies say. They will know that this is the battle spoken of in the Old Testament. And they will cry out for him to come. So half of Jerusalem will be taken by the UN armies, the Antichrist armies. Join me back in Zechariah 14:3-4. So when he hears them crying out, then the Lord will go and fight against those nations that the nations that gathered together and went into Israel. He's going to fight against those nations, and he fights in the day of battle. And in that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. So the women are being ravaged. The half of Jerusalem has been taken. They cry out to the Messiah, please come, save us. And then he does. He comes and he fights against the nations. And then when the people, they all run out, the blinders, the people, they're going to all rush out to meet their Messiah. They know he's supposed to come back, planting his feet on the Mount of Olives, and they witness this happen. But every eye will see him. Zechariah 13:6 says, and one will say to him, what are these wounds between your arms? Then he will answer, those which I was wounded in the house of my friends. So they see his wounds. So they know then, the blinders, they say the Jewish people have blinders on right now. So the blinders will be lifted. And at this moment, the Jews will know that the Messiah was crucified. Romans 11:25-26 says, for I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles has come. And so all Israel will be saved, as it is written. So all of Israel will be saved, because those blinders are going to come off. They're going to see that he is the Messiah, that he was crucified. They're going to see his wounds. Over in Revelations 19:20 says, if I can find it. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of the fire burning with brimstone. So as you can see, after this, the Messiah cast the Antichrist and the false prophet into the lake of fire alive. Both of them. Satan and the false prophet are locked in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. You can read Revelations 20:1-2. Christ is crowned Kings of Kings and Lords of Lords. Read Revelations 11:15, because I'm kind of falling short on time here. Let's see. I'll go ahead and try to read it. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the keys to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Let's see. And then 4-6. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. So we see that God establishes his kingdom on the earth. So the rapture occurs at the very end of the tribulation, at Jesus' return. Those will reign with Christ for 1,000 years, but the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years are finished. The sinners at the time of the rapture, they won't live again until the 1,000 years are finished at the great white throne. So the dead in Christ will awaken to everlasting life. In Revelations 5:10, let's it says, and have made, wait a minute, 5:10 says, and have made us kings and priests to our God, and we shall reign on earth. So those who have been raptured will be reigning with God. They'll have their new bodies. They're going to be reigning with Christ. And, like I said, at the end of this 1,000-year reign, there will be a great white throne. That is in Revelations 20:11. Let's see. Which says, then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. So, all who are not raptured they'll have to stand before God and be judged for many books, including the Lamb's Book of Life. Revelations 20:15 says, and anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So, if you're raptured, you won't stand at the great white throne. Now, at the end of the 1,000-year reign, that will usher in eternity. You will go into eternity with God, and that is the place you want to be. You don't want to be sent to hell. Hell is a real place. It is not intended for you or for me. It is intended for Satan and his fallen angels and his false prophet. So make sure that your name is written in the book of life. Make sure that you don't take this mark of the beast. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I was able to say it to where you guys could understand. Sometimes it still confuses me, but I have a really good teacher. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day or a beautiful night, and God bless.